is coming. We are all open our eyes, we are all open our heart, we are all open our mind under the same sky. Not only one in blood and land, not only one on skin's color and language. We have one spirit, we're one in struggle. Let's raise our dream together. We can, we are young together. Hey, hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah. It's time to get up. Hold your hand, build somebody. Set to go, we step together. One spirit to go. Great. Hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah. Not only one in blood and land, not only one on skin's color and language. We have one spirit, we are one in struggle. Let's reach our dream together. We can, we are young together. Hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah. It's time to get up. Hold your hand, build somebody. Set to go, we step together. One spirit to go. Great. Hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah, hey, ah, ah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our day 2 of policy writing workshop organized by ASEAN Youth Organization in collaboration with Global Policy Insights and the International Association of Political Science Students Public Platform. On our first day, we saw our eminent speakers addressing multifaceted issues concerning youth structural problems and community integration. Today, we will be making a slight departure from what was followed yesterday, as the team will be given 10 minutes to provide a short summary of the policy briefs, and the results will be deliberated for the same. AYO-India also plans to publish the most relevant and best policy brief at the International Association of Political Science Students Public Platform. We are also really proud to welcome our two prolific judges, Ms. Tarana Faruqi and Ms. Cheena Malhotra. The participants have already had the pleasure to listen to Tarana ma'am, where she talked about structural violence, inclusivity in policy making decisions, and shared her experience working with marginalized communities. Therefore, to start her introduction in brief, Ms. Tarana currently works at BBC Media Action. Heretofore, additionally, she volunteered to manage the India operations of the Peace Building Project since 2018. She is the regional focal point for South Asia and Central Asia for UNMGCY Humanitarian Affairs and has facilitated peace building workshops across Europe and India, both partnering with UNHCR Livelihood, MSF, Care India, WHO, among others. Her areas of interest include gender forced migration, human rights, refugee rights, peace building, and politics of South Asia. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, on to our second judge, Ms. Sheena Malhotra, is a public health professional with specialization in public health, policy advocacy, non-communicable diseases, nutrition, capacity building, program management, and resource mobilization. As Director Program in People to People Health Foundation, formerly known as Project Hope India, she has been providing technical and managerial leadership to health programs for over 15 years. She has successfully led and designed implementation and policy advocacy programs and strategies with global teams across multiple countries. She has also led management and implementation of CSR, foundation, and corporate funds, working with potential donors to strategic CSR investments. She is also proud to be a part of the G-Pods Fellowship, a platform providing opportunities for holistic development and networking. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, since we are done with the introduction, should we begin with the presentations? Or should we begin at 11:05?
We can start if everybody is ready, I guess.
Yeah,
Great. Now, let us move on to the presentation of our policy brief. Team 2, I would request you to please begin.
Hi, everybody. So this is Sarah, and we are team 2. So I'll just start. Should I introduce my teammates as well, or?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So we are a 4-member team, and we have Carissa, myself, Manvi, and Parneet making up our team. So I'll just start then. So we are team 2, and our broad theme was a more prosperous future, focusing specifically on education. So to briefly reiterate, the focus areas of the theme were A, the upscale of research in higher education institutions, and B, creating a plan for realization of the same. So at first, we'll quickly go through a brief background of the existing research scenario in higher education institutions in India. Then we'll touch upon the problem we've decided to address in this space. And finally, a succinct version of the solution will be present. So in India, only 0.69% of GDP is invested in research and innovation as per the National Education Policy of 2020. This is very less compared to the percentage invested by other countries in research and innovation, like Israel, South Korea, or the US, who invest up to 4.3%, 4.2%, and 2.8% of their GDPs respectively. So other than the limited investment in this area, inclusion of underrepresented communities in the research spaces is also a cause for concern. So this is evident when we consider the percentage of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe students enrolled in higher education institutions, which just made up to 14.7% and 5.6% of the total students enrolled in higher education institutions. The low level of research activity is further witnessed when we analyze the percentage of higher education institutions which actually carry out a PhD or a PG program, since serious research engagements are undertaken at these levels of education. The All India Survey on Higher Education carried out for the year 2019-20 reports that only 2.7% and 35.04% of colleges out of the total colleges surveyed provides PhD and PG programs respectively. So our proposed solution aims to contribute to the upscale of research opportunities and exposure to research activities in higher education, especially at the undergraduate level, while addressing the issue of inclusivity. So next, we examined 2 policy alternatives to increase exposure of students to research activities in undergraduate courses. So the first one is to create a partnership between think tanks, NGOs, and other organizations like the United Nations to provide research training sessions in various critical areas of national and global importance, like climate change, sustainable development, energy security, and so on. So the second alternative is to integrate course-based undergraduate research experiences, commonly known as CURE, to the undergraduate curriculum across all institutions, providing a higher education in the country. The CURE program allows for a mentor who will most probably be a postgraduate student, a researcher, or a PhD scholar who has substantial knowledge in undertaking research activities to engage all the students in a class to learn subjects or courses in a research-oriented manner. It can be done through common tools like lectures or assignments. And further, the students will also be assisted in producing, if not co-published papers, some form of policy documents or reports which contain some original findings. And moreover, the experience itself can help further research as well as lead to solutions to any research questions they have been tackling so far. So now my teammate Manvi would take the discussion forward.
Now I'll walk you through the analysis of the requested policy policy alternatives. The CURE program can be integrated with the curriculum in higher education institutions so that it will be a long-term engagement, unlike one-time training activities. It will thus enhance students' understanding of undertaking research. CURE is also a more comprehensive undergraduate study approach because it provides a large number of students, apparently an entire class, with the opportunity to experience performing research. Moreover, this is a sustainable plan to enhance student learning, intellectual independence, and leadership. Now we have two requested policy action. The first one is setting up a committee with relevant stakeholders and experts in the field of education to integrate CURE in the undergraduate curriculum in the country. The second is bilateral partnership between India and the United States in education sector for smooth incorporation of CURE in the undergraduate curriculum. Now, one problem with CURE is that CURE program requires mentors who are graduates, PhD fellows, or teachers. There can be a dearth in qualified mentors, but this can be addressed either by inviting professionals from think tanks, NGOs, or research institutes occasionally, or through peer mentors who can be senior undergraduate students or postgraduate students. As a result, the faculty members will not have to engage at all times in mentorship. Thank you.
Great. Is team 2 done?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Now I request team 3 to please begin with the presentation.
So, should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, hello everyone. This is Divyanshi from Team 3. And since we have a topic on more prosperous future for youth unemployment, so we'll be presenting our memorandum on the topic. So, what our focus mainly is on that we recommend a redefined national youth policy of India, because before preparing our memorandum, we have gone through national youth policy of India. So we have tried to encounter all the backcomings, all the forthcomings that needs to be established under that. So here we begin. First of all, as the time is fast pacing, we need to have our unemployment ratio is also having rising with the fast numbers. So we need to take take some steps. Factors like skill mismatch, population growth, and lack of vocational studies have led to an increase in the youth unemployment rate. India is expected to become the fourth largest economy by 2025. So it must recognize the potential of its human resource and take some necessary action to boost up the employment opportunity. Only skills developing and vocational studies are not important, but the government need to create some jobs, in the service sector or in the manufacturing sector, so that the people can be employed. So after analyzing the objectives and impacts of NYP, we have identified shortcomings and have suggested alternate policy proposals. We emphasize the need for the vocational education, bridging of the digital divide, and encouraging the youth engagement governance. So now moving ahead with our policy alternatives and statements, what we recommend. So here are first is that we should collaborate with international organizations, NGOs, corporations, private industries, public industry to scale up our investments so that foreign currency flows in and we have a better scale to grow. Next is since the pandemic is a need to shift us on online mode, so we need to create a digital forum to train execute government schemes and programs that can be making awareness about all these policy schemes that are being implemented, mandatory internship and apprenticeships at schools college level depending on the field of study. So all the students who are in their graduation or undergraduation, uh, they must be trained with internship so that not only
I'm
yeah.
so sorry. I think the judges are mentioning that there is some issue with the screen presentation. Adams, can you please look into it because the judges are saying they're not able to see the policy brief.
No, we are. Hi, this is China. We are able to see the brief. It's just that you need to scroll up.
Yeah.
Because your presentation is not in line with what you're talking. We're not able to read the policy alternatives.
Yeah, we can just see the first page, I think the introductory.
Yeah, that's right.
And zoom in a bit if possible so that we can read because we are not able to.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Please go ahead. Gina, you can see, right?
Yeah, I can see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll be beginning now with again with the policy alternative statements. So yeah, we need to, the first point is we need to collaborate with the international organization, NGOs and corporation with private industries to scale up our investments so that foreign direct investments come in our country and we have a better scale to grow. Next point is since in this COVID pandemic, we have learned how to move from offline to online. So there is a huge need to create a digital forum to train and execute government schemes and programs, which will create an awareness and all the shortcomings of the program. Next is all the graduation and undergraduating students, it must be mandatory internships and apprenticeships at schools level depending on the field of study they are studying, so that they would be not only educationally, but they should be skilled. So next the point is to the analysis of our policy. So to correct the imbalance between the ability of jobs and supply of workers, job creation is a must, because it's not like if we train our people and skill our people and we do not have a huge number, correct number of jobs in our country. So it is a must to create a job industry. Creation is a must. So in 2021 itself, many Indian startups have become unicorns and grown rapidly. Actually, I would say this is the best way you can create a job for yourself. You will be entrusted also, and I think if you work for yourself is the best thing you can do. So around 1.7 lakh jobs were created by Indian startups in FY financial year 21. Initiatives like Startup India must be regularly reviewed and modified to strengthen the entrepreneur culture. Apart from that, forging partnership for scaling up investment in decent job for youth should be given up, so that we have self startups and entrepreneurship and professionalism culture should be promoted. So next point is how we should we are requesting that the policy in this policy particular action should be taken. So first of all, we recommend the government policies to lift their aggregate demand and include public employment programs, wage and trade subsidies, sectoral programs, counter cycle fiscal policies, and youth entrepreneur intervention. Next is measures to improve the labor market integrations of young people through targeted intervention should be taken. So next is the references through which we took out our data and which helped us in defining our memorandum. That's all. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Team 3. I would like to give the judges a minute to please score the teams that have gone for their policy briefs.
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
Great. I think we can start with team 4. Team 4, are you ready?
Saru, let's wait for another minute, please. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Team 4, should we begin with your presentation?
Yeah, sure. So I hope you all can see our memo, Team Force.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So our theme is going to be a more secure future, and we are addressing this to the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. So my teammates are, first is like I am Ashish Singh, second is Nandini Praveen, and third is Tathagat Chakraborty. So the title for our policy brief is that the need for reserving seats in the Rajya Sabha for 3 target groups. One is women, second is LGBTQIA plus community, that is the queer community, and the third is the marginalized castes, which are very endemic to India, right? So just some heads up, we are not looking up to a pie in the sky approach, or addressing a problem which cannot be solved in the immediate context. And also we are recognizing the political and social reality of this country of India, and in that context we are approaching the entire problem and trying to structure a brief around it. So you'll find a bit of realism in our policy brief. We are not proposing heavy interference, because we don't think that would be sustainable, considering that we are looking at something which is political in nature, and that we believe should be as organic as it can be made. So we are looking at increasing the parliamentary representation of the 3 target groups. So beginning, the present political reality in this country, you see, is not actually favoring the flow of power and representation to these 3 groups. People are biased. People do not want to vote for these groups. They do not want the entire socio-political structures are looped in a way which do not allow political power to sweep into the ambits of these 3 groups, right? So the Supreme Court has already held in Mukesh versus NCT of Delhi that public at large, and in particular men, need to be sensitized on gender justice. The SC has already decriminalized homosexuality, which, and they actually held in the judgment that the LGBT persons deserve a life unshackled from the shadow of unapprehended felons, which basically means that the Supreme Court has also been tilting towards an approach which actually favors the invigoration of the queer life in India, because this is the time to move on, and the judiciary is actually realizing it. We have also conducted surveys; the youths are realizing it. So, and in that context, we have also framed a few of our recommendations, and we'll let you know very soon. So, and then Article 46, the 4th other weaker sections, that also, man, we are reading that to subsume women, LGBTQIA, and also the marginalized castes. And then you see, the current Lok Sabha is only 78 women. That is just 14% of the total seats. In the USA, that's double, 28 seats, 28% of the seats. So of course, this is by no means something satisfactory considering the gender ratio, like the sex ratio in India. So of course, this is a very the entire arrangement of political power is very biased towards the male gender, towards the straight people, and towards castes which are dominant in in the Hindi heartland and in the south, northeast, the tribes, etc. So and also there is no MP in either the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha from the queer community. So as Mr. Arpit yesterday said that we need to have a vision, mission, capability, adaptability. So in that case, we have structured our brief. So our vision is to increase the parliamentary representation, as we said, of these groups. The mission is how we are going to work around this. So we aim to actualize a working and workable ecosystem in which both states, like in both the state and the national level, instead of just looking at the macro pick in the national level, because we don't think that would be sustainable without participation of the states. So in the national level, which is a mandatory provision, we aim at uh, constituting standing committees, and this is how the committees will be constituted. Each state will have send the reserve members of all these three groups to the Rajya Sabha from its quota, and that the number of reserve seats will be in proportionate to the population of the target groups in the state. Now, when that first step is done, the committee will be chaired by each committee. Like there will be three committees for three target groups, and they will be chaired by an elected member from the three target groups in the Rajya Sabha. We are not looking at the Lok Sabha because, of course, the political reality does not favor election of these candidates in the near future, and we recognize that. We are not looking forward to change that or nudge that or affect that in any way, because that would again be a pie in the sky approach, which we do not have the capabilities to deal with. And then the committees shall make recommendations to the government of India and act as oversight mechanisms for the welfare of the target groups. They shall also act as a feedback mechanism, so that will set up a feedback loop, and also and now we come to the state level. So this is an optional provision, because we are, of course, if we make it mandatory, that's going to be a heavy interference, and we don't think that would be the entire political structure that is going on at this moment. So senior most MP from each state shall get to head the commission for the respective groups. For example, please scroll down, sir. Adam, could you please scroll down? Yeah, a bit more, yeah, a bit more, yeah, perfect. A bit up. I want to see point 1. Yeah, perfect. So women, the reserved seats for women, they will get to head the state women commission, which basically means there will be a political head heading all of these three commissions, that is the LGBTQIA board and then the state minority commission. So now when that's done, what we aim to do with this is, when the reserve member is going to the Rajya Sabha, we also want to give them the power necessary to function as independent leaders in the state. And that is why we are looking into this commission thing, that when they get to head the commission, they will actually get a hold of all the events impacting their community in the state, and then they can look into it. And they will also be in touch with the grassroots. And unlike the executive leaders who are currently getting to staff these commissions, they will be political. So they will actually have some sense of power, which can actually enable them to function independently. And they will also be a part of the committees on the national level. So they can influence at the national level, they can influence at the state level. So, and also now very important, the commissions will get to establish fellowships. At this moment, every commission in every state is actually, hosting a lot of events for youth, but they're not having one thing which actually is, self-encompassing. They're not having any fellowships which actually involve our youths. So we would look into this. And the Rajya Sabha MPs already get a 5 crore fund annually. So that will be a part of that would be, going to establish this fellowship. So we have already made the financial provision, and the fellowships will involve all the young people who get selected, and they will work in research and analysis, help the committees, help these teams. And that will, understand this. And this national level, the committees, state level, the commissions, and then the fellowships. So this is, setting up our grassroots to the national level feedback loop. And that is very important, because this stream that we are intending to set up is actually the best way to foster inclusion at a political level, and that is the aim of the theme which we are assigned, right? So the policy alternatives, like already mentioned ours, and the other two that can be there is one, let the process of representation continue organically. That is no interference, do nothing. But again, that will be a snail slow process, right? I'm also combining the next slide in this. That will be snail slow. It's not going to work out anyway in the at a space that we would like. Second, the election commission can mandate provision of tickets to target groups by the political parties contesting in Lok Sabha elections. That would constitute heavy interference, and I don't think that will go. You know, that would comport with the political structure of this country and how people think in this country. Nobody would like to vote. Like only nobody, like three people contested the Lok Sabha election from the LGBTQIA. None of them won. So we are not looking at that at the psyche of the people at this moment. So in the analysis, I'll come. So as Mr. Arpit yesterday said, that we also need to have capabilities and we also need to make provisions for adaptability. So the first alternative is, of course, we talked about it. It's not going to work out. The second runs contrary to the socio-political reality of this country, LGBTQIA plus and marginalized nominees due to the social conditioning of this country. The entire structure, if we make it mandatory for the election in the from the Lok Sabha route, it's going to stoke divisions. It has already happened. It will happen again. And of course, we are not looking at a pie in the sky approach, right? Nothing is idealistic in this country or anywhere in the world. So the third alternative, which is our alternative, takes the Rajya Sabha route. That is a more, I would say, dignified route to the parliament. And the recommendations envisage a grassroots process with the fellowships and the committees, the standing committees, the state commissions staffed by political heads, and these will set up a robust feedback loop under the legislative wing, as I talked about, in the shape of standing committees reserved with MPs from the target groups. So lastly, requested policy action. The government should make provisions for the Rajya Sabha seats from each state proportionate to the numbers in each state. Second, set up standing committees overviewing the respective spheres constituting such reserved MPs. Thirdly, nudge states to accept the optional provisions that we talked about. It will be optional, of course, like the like before in the 1991 reforms that were taken up in the panchayat scenario. And lastly, nudge states to set up fellowships, and the fellowships will the money for that will be coming from the Rajya Sabha's MP funds, and now they will also have a chance to have revenues from the services which the people will be offering to different groups, different let's say social sector organizations. There can be collaborative processes set up, and that's how we would like to end. So again, summarizing, at the national level, we have the committees, and the committees are being staffed by reserve members. Just concluding.
Okay.
Yeah. And secondly, in the states, you have the commissions which are running the fellowships. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to give 1 minute for our judges to review this presentation.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation.
Great. Now let us begin. With Team 5, I would request them to please start with the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? All right. So this is the presenter for Team 5, and we are a 4-member team, and we had the theme of a more secure future. So this memorandum draft that we have created under the umbrella of a more secure future, uh, we have the principle that this future belongs to the youth, right? So the title for our draft was Incentives for Youth Participation in Decision Making, because all the decisions that are taken will indirectly or directly impact the youth and the future that lies ahead of them. So the introduction or the background, first the situational analysis. Since the global pandemic has a lot of effect, and it has an effect globally on the economy, and it has taken it a lot of time to recover, but the youth employment situation has worsened in recent years. A lot of students have dropped out of education, and the ILO estimates that 156 million youth in low and middle class income countries are living in poverty even though they are employed. Problem is that even though the governments are taking a lot of actions, and organizations at international levels have taken a lot of initiatives, but these initiatives or programs are not having an impact on the grassroots level or on the people that actually need to be addressed to. So we propose some possible solutions to that, which is having international and domestic internships in places like senates or parliaments, where students can have a place to voice their opinion. Second, incentives and scholarship programs for students who wish to pursue education further and would like to take up leadership roles. We further uh, we further propose youth councils and a ministry of youth affairs. Also, I would like to hand over this to another member of my group, because this draft is not only dedicated to India, it is an inclusive draft of all the members who come from different backgrounds like Malaysia, Philippines, Cambodia. So I would like Anish to take over now. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. So I will be taking over and I will be explaining about our policy alternative and statements. So to achieve the global SDG goal of youth participation by 2030, we propose national and domestic level program for increasing the participation of youth in decision-making progress. Why? This is because we believe that youth are the national treasures of every country, and one day youth are the one who is going to take over the country. So we need to include the youth in our decision-making process. Therefore, Therefore, this policy formulating mechanism would ensure parliamentary representation of youth and underrepresented communities as well. For first, building a Ministry of Youth Affairs that solely deals with the issues catering to youth and youth of minority communities like LGBT and other minority communities. And these are our policy alternatives and statements. So moving on to our analysis, the United Nations, as well as International Labour Organization, World Bank, and other international and regional organizations are moving forward with efforts to implement Sustainable Development Goal 8 and related measures to stimulate youth employment and the creation of decent work for the present and the future generations of the young people through the global initiative and decent jobs for youth. This is because it is very important, because we see in the recent years that that the number of employment and unemployed youth are increasing these days. Therefore, this initiative is important as a step forward, but just a step forward. However, there are still major issues to address with regard of youth employment. elements of Agenda 2030. So our cost benefit analysis. It is formulating a ministry specifically addressing the issues related to the youth of a country will reduce the compounding effect for generations ahead. And according to the United Nations Youth Report, young people who have direct access to youth communities are often well placed to collect and use quantitative and qualitative data on youth at a local level. So we believe that youth are our youth are the future and also the national asset. So if we have a ministry that can take care of these groups, we will believe that this analysis would help with our policy. So now I would like to pass back to my member to continue with our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anise. So moving on with the requested policy action, and as mentioned by Anise, that the youth that are connected with the youth communities have more impact and have more power in the decision making. So these are some possible suggestions to the government of any country in the world, because it's not just India, it's not just underdeveloping countries, it's not just Philippines, it's not just Malaysia that do not that has a lot of youth population but do not have enough incentives. So these are all solutions to all the governments. So first is creating international and domestic internships. Internship is one internship is one alternative, because with through internships the youth can have mentors who are already working in the Senate or Parliament, and they can mentor the coming youth for taking up the positions, so they will have a lot of experience and knowledge about the positions. Also creating incentives for education and scholarships for underrepresented classes. Establishing organizations to train people of all communities, including youth for political leadership. Examples are Militia Future Leaders School and youth power clubs. So all these possible solutions that we are suggesting to the governments are directly or indirectly already in place. These are some of the dots that we are interlinking between all these countries, because as far as internship is concerned, India already has an internship in the Lok Sabha Parliament, and when it comes to fellowships, a lot of countries have a lot of fellowships and youth councils. Canada has a youth council, and so Malaysia Future Leaders School is an example of that. So we can take reference from that. And resources, of course there will be a lot of uh, requirement for resources. So financial resources are vital in achieving this policy, as a certain amount of budget is required. So we would request the government to set aside some amount from the budget for for setting up a youth ministry or these programs. And there will be one major challenge that we will have to face, which is ageism, because a lot of members in the power in the country right now, they do not feel that the youth is adequate to take decision for themselves. So we will need to bring a change in the mentality, and that will be through creating awareness. That will be through having informative seminars to make them understand that the youth needs to have a voice. The youth needs to have a place to voice their opinions in the decision making, because either way the decision is going to impact them and their future. And with that, I would like to conclude the draft. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Team 5. I would like to give a minute for our judges to please review the presentations. Now, let us begin with Team 6. I would request you to please begin with your policy brief.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aram from Team 6. So me and Arif decided to present our memorandum, both of us. And so our policies, violence, inequality, mental health memorandum is about the youth, women, and LGBTQIA+. So always aligned with violence against women are two other factors. The first being inequality, which eventually leads to the second factor, namely the sudden increase on mental health related cases such as anxiety and depression. So our policy will be presented by Arif.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Aram. Hello, everyone. Okay, I will explain about policy alternative or statement that we discuss. First is spread awareness about United Nations entity for gender equality and empowerment of women. Two is invest more on your organization, giving the LGBTQIA plus community a boost by providing equal opportunities and support. And the last is modernize mental health connections, dealing and communication among person or groups. Okay, next is Aram.
So here goes our analysis. First is a solid institution or organization can constantly help in fighting for women's influence, opinion, and worth, not just in the community, but more importantly to the world. Second, equality resolves social conflicts to enhance social interactions that stimulate social development. Third, collaboration with the other groups that offer open invitations regarding mental health movements so people can have an idea on how to express themselves, not just through conversation, but through other mediums such as arts, literature, music, photography, sports, and many more. So the requested policy action will be presented by my partner Arif.
Okay, thank you, Aram. Can go down, please. Okay, thank you. Yeah, about requested policy action. First is establish an information agency that focuses on implementing policies related to women. The second is acknowledge the youth and their needs to keep them as the hope of the nation, recognize their potential that remind them to do their part, work on solution together. And third is see to it that you are setting an example to show respect to the LGBTQIA plus community and their choices. Don't intimidate them, rather be a friend or companion that can give them good advice, support them, and help them get back on track. Okay, can go down, please. Okay, the last is making sure that the involvement of social media through different communication application is spreading awareness about mental health and reaching out to other people is safe and secure, free from hacking and bullying. Okay, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for all your attention.
Arif, I think we can't hear you.
Sorry?
We couldn't hear you in the last moment. Oh, I
Oh,
think it's just my internet connection. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he
sorry.
was audible. We could
fine,
hear
yeah.
him. Yeah.
Okay, great. So sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Team 6, for your
That's okay.
presentation.
Thank you so
We
much,
thank you.
judges.
We would now like to give the judges some minutes to please review their presentation. Yes, great. Now let us begin with the last team presentation of the day. Team 7, I would request you to please present your policy brief.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, go ahead.
So, hi. The theme we were allotted was a fairer future, in which we had to target against the structural violence for vulnerable groups. So, in our policy, we decided to focus on educational reforms to uplift underprivileged women. So we all know that there's a huge literacy gap between the literacy index of men and women in India. According to a survey conducted by NSSO in 2017, there was a 17% gap in the literary index for both. And the main reason for this was the dropout rates among women, which was in another survey was found out that it was 17.3% at the secondary education level and 4.74% at the elementary level. So there are a lot of cultural and economic factors for the reasons women usually drop out. The education is usually, even in rural or urban areas, more inaccessible for women as compared to men. So for this, we propose a solution of having an holistic approach in our policy changes. And the name we have given to our policy is Udan, which means flight in Hindi. And we have proposed different solutions to the problems women usually face. The first is forming a committee in charge of regularly updating and adapting curriculum while focusing on gender issues and dismantling gender roles. We have often found that from elementary education, gender roles and stereotypes are often reinforced upon us. Like we are often told that women are usually do jobs like teaching and cooking, and men usually become engineers, and the men belong in STEM. So for this, we have proposed that there should be a committee that is regularly updating the curriculum that we are teaching our kids. And that committee should be formed, should have a 50% reservation for women, because if we are focusing on gender issues, we should have the representation of people who have been oppressed for centuries.
And the second solution was introducing entrepreneurial courses for women, because in India, there's a very low self-employment rate for women as compared to men, which is 56%. So for financial independency, we need to introduce entrepreneurial courses for women so that they can start their own entrepreneurial businesses, ventures, and we can ensure financial independency. And the third was ensuring proper sex education, where we are teaching the students the concept of consent, because sexual harassment is also one of the reasons why parents are usually afraid to send their daughters to school. And ensuring proper menstrual hygiene by including pad vending machines in schools where the pads are available at a subsidized rate and are not treated as a luxury product. The fourth is digital access for women, because often there is mobility issue for women. So under the already existing Digital India scheme, if we incorporate this particular aspect where we are focusing on digital access for women and providing online courses for them as an alternative. And the fifth one was workshops to sensitize school teachers and adults on gender dynamics to make them understand the structural violence that exists. The policy alternatives are focusing on all the pyramid levels of education, where we are focusing on what we are teaching at elementary level and what the dropout rates at the secondary level. Sensitization sessions, because often we need a change of mindset. And in the analysis part, through the holistic approach we are using, we are not just targeting only the lower socioeconomic groups, but even the upper ones, by introducing entrepreneurial courses and sex education, which are also not taught in urban schools. And the sensitization sessions would be targeting the parents of the children as well, to change the mindset and to let them know why education is important for their daughters as well. Can you scroll down? Okay. So the requested policy action, in order to implement the policy suggested, the Ministry of in Indian government, the Ministry of Women and Child Development already exists. So we are proposing that this policy should be passed by them. And proper internet access should be ensured for women, because internet is an important aspect of education in today's time. Sex education would be requiring destigmatizing session for students' parents, as well as it is a very stigmatized concept in India and parents would be reluctant. And proper need assessment surveys need to be conducted to understand the needs of people in different areas. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Team 7. I would like to give the judges a minute to please score their presentation.
Sure.
Great. We have Team 8's presentation left. Let us now hear the presentation of the policy brief. Team 8, please begin.
Hi, we're Team 8. We're made up of myself, I'm Aditi, Purvi, Sharunef, and Inka. Our team is Fairer Future, and we also decided to work on women in educational spaces. Purvi?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I shall begin. So I would like to capture everybody's attention to the title we have chosen, Structural Violence on Women in Educational Spaces. Our chosen title for this theme, A More Prosperous Future, where in particular we are looking for a more fairer future. So in the aspects of it, we will try to throw light on the structural violence on women in education spaces. We need to think for the problems that we have in right now to be capture the more prosperous solutions to them, and we need to address the data from the historical one, and what were the inherent solutions, and what were the need of the present. So we need to try to look into that context, as we are aware of the term structural violence, a form of violence wherein social structures or social institutions are on the fault lines for preventing people meeting their basic needs. And it could be derivative, be it symbolic, political, etc. And in our research, we came across the nuances that manifest in both materials and symbolic aspects of structural violence on women in education spaces. Our research spans to scrutinize fault lines shaping the contours of women or girls in education spaces in India, and even though the national indicators were not that suggestive of inclusiveness in gender parity, from the last 70 years, though many policies and programs were suggested and implemented, but the question arises, are they really providing the ultimate solution to actual needs? And I would like to emphasize here that in our research, we came across that we are lagging behind in the more holistic approach as far as the consent programs have been implemented. As we know that education is the most important tool to initiate any change, but it would be more beneficial and promote a healthy approach if it will be inclusive enough. And for that, we need to shatter down this gender gap and need to address various predictable and unpredictable reasons for it. We need to address that if our population as in whole, with the participation of every community, especially the local and marginalized ones, will contribute to economies and occupied in the education sector inclusively, it will eventually take our economy be the indicator of inclusiveness to the question of intersectionality, and especially in the context of women's when it comes to their participation and their layers of identities. Government and authorities need to take the aspects of financial incentives in the direction of reaching to right sect and at the right time, and will provide full information about the programs to local communities and especially the women's, and to ensure their fair share to the economy and independence. Concerned authorities also have to look for the inherent misogyny that prevails in this particular domain, and try to drive a curriculum that allows women to talk about their problems from this inherent inequality to unwanted hurdles. Authorities and educational institutions also have to look and take the calls from this approach of equity, because first we need to ensure the equity, then we will be able to ensure and implement the equality. And these were the basic problems that we really needed to highlight from this memorandum. And we will also try to capture the aspects of infrastructure. Are they really in the right direction, and we implemented in the aspects of women's, and what were their needs? And also we need to ensure like there will be more women colleges at the district levels, and also local communities, and especially in local communities, women's participations would likely to prevail in the schools, and also in the authorities that are at the local sects. Are the representations be that inclusive, where the marginalized and women's with their layers of intersectionality would be able to capture and be their own voice, and provide their solutions, and be able to take call for their self. So from now, I would like to take over to Aditi to take more holistic approaches in our memorandum.
So our main solution to this is restructuring the current system of public education to focus more on women. It is well established, for example, through various studies, that parents are far more willing to spend money for boys to go to private schools. And girls often either end up in government schools or not in school at all. So our major argument is that if they are supported better by state-run education systems, where we will be able to reach them much better. Simultaneously, because it is going through the government spaces and therefore will reach a lot more people, there is a greater chance that we will be able to address basic inequalities that already exist within the system. This can be rural-urban disparities in education. This can be disparities on account of class, on account of caste, and even of region, because we know for a fact that different states in India have vastly different education systems. Simultaneously, it is also necessary to include local communities wherever possible in schools, either by hiring them as teachers, which is very possible because India does have a surplus of teachers, especially at the elementary and middle school levels. While we are working within the social structure that exists, we're very clear that we want students and the children who are in the schools to be able to gain their own avenues, to be able to escape their social structure should they need to. So there is a great need for emphasizing the need for financial independence. So our curriculums need to be more skill focused, and there is also a need to ensure that they're able to get college educations, which could be best provided by allowing good government institutions at district levels, because again, girls are not allowed to leave their homes as much as boys. They also need to get involved in traditionally more male-dominated spaces in education, like STEM especially, to allow them to realize their potential and gain financial independence to leave. Purvi will now continue.
Yes, from this very own aspect of STEM, where we have mentioned that women are less likely to be involved in STEM, and improving access to these fields in key to realize the potential of India's women. And also about the girls and women are systematically tracked away from science and maths throughout the education system, and limiting their training and options go into these particular fields as adults. And women make up only 28% if we provide and give analysis of some sort of data. So in general, they're like 28% of women force in science, technology, engineering, and math that concludes STEM. And men vastly outnumber women, majoring in most STEM fields in college. The gender gaps are particularly high in some of the fastest growing and highest paid jobs of the future, likely to be, it is about like computer science or engineering. And we need to examine like what were the problems that like especially the women that face in the STEM field. It is about the gender stereotypes, male dominated cultures, or fewer role models that were like women's were the like rarely the role models in the STEM fields. If you look for the more general aspects, or be the rural or urban divides, and also the confidence gap is also that prevails in this particular sector. And the fifth aspect that we have mentioned from the key point is about improving the aspects of infrastructure, and also reduces dropouts due to the reasons such as menstruation, because it is like to be the more really it is a scientific phenomenon and the biological phenomenon, but there are like a lot of hurdles and social stigmas attached to it. And the main difference occurs when it comes to the school attendance during the menstruation, and also about the concentration span, or also about the stigma and the misbeliefs that were conducted and prevailed in the society since time immemorial. And all we need to examine like what were the main policies and programs that we need to initiate, and it would be like menstrual hygiene management projects from the district levels. And students could also add into their curriculum, and institutional and educational institutions and teachers should provide guidance in the same line. And we need to promote more inclusive education where boys should also include, because it is not only about the women, it is a more holistic approach if it include women like boys as well in this aspect and this run. And we need to ensure sustainability through the aspect of economic in this particular phenomenon of menstruation, from the lens of economic, cultural, menstrual health, environmental. And so it would prevail the more inclusive education, because inclusiveness is not only a word to be mentioned everywhere, but it is only sought to be meant when it actually prevails. So we need to gather those things.
As for the financing aspect of this, because we're trying to reuse and rework the current mechanisms, focusing more on women and also trying to change some of the infrastructural aspects, we don't necessarily imagine that there will require major budget reforms that require, let's say, a lot more than what we currently expend on public education. To that extent, our requested policy actions would be setting up committees to identify which schools can be meaningfully converted to girls-only schools and which regions require more attention. Simultaneously, there is expenditure that needs to happen, especially with relation to sanitation facilities, which ordinarily already don't exist in public schools, and vocational training wherever necessary. There's also a need to work with local panchayats to address problems that might be very region specific.
Aditi, the time is up, so I'm so sorry.
May I
I'll
take
have to
one
stop
last
you.
10 seconds?
Okay.
Right. There's also a need to quickly look at regions which are so remote that they don't currently have access to government schools. And there is a general need for sensitizing teachers and principals so that existing social problems like caste or class discrimination among the girls reduces as much as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, teammate. Thank you so much, teams. It was very enlightening to listen to everyone's policy brief and look at the hard work that has gone through it. We would now be taking a 5-minute break for the judges to tabulate the scores, and we'll come back at 12:15 to declare the results. Is that fine with everyone? Okay, great. See you all at 12:15. Let us reconvene. Is everyone present here? Great. Welcome, everyone. We took a long 20 minutes break, and hopefully it has given you all time to celebrate the end of this activity with your group members. I would first like to request the judges to address the participants for any feedback or deliberation. Please, judges, the floor is yours.
Sure. Taru, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. This is Gina, and I must congratulate you all for the great work that each team has put in. And I think the reason for taking more time in closing the decision is because it was a very tough close to close competition. And we were finding it very difficult to score, more one over the other. So congratulations, you all have actually put in a lot of efforts, and I think you have understood in terms of what are the great things that we need to put on when we are writing a policy memo. And there is a lot of effort that has gone in from each team in researching about that particular topic. What are the opportunities that already exist, and what are the opportunities which need to be strengthened, or what are the opportunities that can be leveraged to improve the existing policy. I just have a very small feedback. If you guys can put a little bit of more effort on strengthening the policy alternatives when you are suggesting as a part of the memo. Because policy alternative is, for example, you going to a minister or say to a PMO with your suggestion to come up with a dedicated ministry for XYZ thing, or to make a big change in the existing policy. So be prepared that what are the counters that you may get back from the opposite side in terms of why should I do what you are proposing, instead do A or B. So those are the policy alternatives, and that's the argument which you need to provide in the analysis, that how the policy arguments, alternatives that you have proposed are not scoring more over the suggestion that you are making, and what is the benefit that the government would have more in terms of a short term and the long term impact of aligning or accepting your proposal. Last point I want to make, when you are suggesting about the requested policy action, so always keep in mind that whatever high level 3 or 4 actions that you are proposing to ensure the policy reform, please evaluate it from different angles, and most importantly, how much of finances are you requesting, or the resources are you requesting the government to put in, because that's the first pushback you're going to get, that we've already invested X amount of money here. Show us the 100% utilization of that, and then we will allocate more towards your suggestion. So I have a very live example from my experience of working in public health. So a few years back, I was a part of a committee who went to the health minister stating that please increase the the percentage of allocation, financial allocation towards health. So guys, the question that he had back for us was, show me the 100% utilization of the 1% that I've already allocated towards health. Then come back to me and ask that make it 1.2 or 1.3. To increase that budget allocation, I have to deduct the budget of other departments, other ministries, and then put it here. So you should have a very strong justification, very strong key points that you want to bring on the table. Always remember that we should not have very long introductions, backgrounds, or justification. What are those 3 or maximum 4 pressing arguments that you want to bring in your memo, which will just have a quick buy-in of the policymaker to listen to what you are saying. If you do not have that strong argument in the introduction, he won't listen to your policy suggestion. So make that argument very strong, which I found in many cases it was. be prepared with the policy alternatives that you are suggesting, because if he really liked your idea, he will throw a very hard argument back to you, because he needs a very convincing solution stating that what you are proposing is right, and he need to convince the other members in the committee, in the political party, to shell off budget from somewhere else, or to give an additional budget and resources, not just budget only, but also the other resources towards the recommendation that you're doing. And lastly, what I want to make a comment is that the requested policy action, two or three policy actions, what could be the challenges that you see people might face while implementing those policy actions, and what is the mitigation plan for that? Give that robust memo to the minister, and you will always have a success. So, but overall, it was a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed listening to you all. The enthusiasm, the passion that I saw in each one of you while presenting was commendable. And I'm so happy to see that our future of not only of India, but of multiple countries is very enthusiastic, great. And I wish you all a very best for future. Thank you.
I mean, I think Gina summed up everything that I wanted to say, but I think all of you put a lot of hard work and dedication into this. And I know it's not easy within like a day or two to, like present everything, do your research, and go ahead with this. So I think all of you are winners in that sense for us, because we saw the enthusiasm and passion that all of you had, and the way you articulated and sort of, presented your points, and that's precisely why it was very difficult for us to decide winners in that sense. 2-3 feedback points, just adding on to what she said, is that when you are addressing a policy memo, keep in mind the target audience, right? The ministers whom you're dealing with, they will barely have 5 to 7 minutes to pay attention to it. So it has to be really concise and to the point, right? I mean, 3 or 4 pointers with exact precise details about what you're looking at, because nobody would be interested in listening to the background story, this, that, what are the problems, because people already know what the issues are, right? I mean, why you're writing a policy brief is to come up with a counter solution, right? Like to come up with alternate identifying gaps, and then sort of looking at ways to tackle this thing. And as you said, right, like the policy alternatives has to be really, really concise and clear, and narrowing it down to specifics, right? Like where will the budget come from, how are you going ahead with its implementation, etc. So I think that's where that's one space that you can sort of improve upon. And there has to be a flow in the way you write it, like it's like a story that you're building your argument, you're building your case and saying that, okay, this is why you need to do this, and this is the policy issue. So I think that I think comes more with practice. The more you, I think, write and do these kind of documents, you will become better at it. Because tomorrow, if you're presenting a policy brief to a minister, then what your subject matter would be, right? And how you need to present it to a minister at that level, right? So I think that's where I feel like things can further improve upon. And I'm sure, like tomorrow, if all of you go to any minister and present any policy brief, I'm sure you will be able to do a good job at it, now that you know what needs to be worked upon in any part of the world that you go to. I think there are some systematic challenges that exist in every government or every country and every system, but us, as like people in this development spaces, etc., can just put our best foot forward and say that this is how we suggest policies, which with the most efficient and robust policies that you can recommend. But yes, congratulations to all of you. I think it's a great job, and yeah, I wish you all the best for your future.
Thank you so much for that feedback, China ma'am and Tarana ma'am. I'm sure we would keep all these points in our mind for any future activity that we do take up, or any different paths that we will be taking up regarding our careers, and would keep that young passion and enthusiasm alive. I would now be presenting the scores of the policy writing workshop. Everyone here has performed beyond their standards and set the bar really high with their analysis and solutions with their policy briefs for making the world a better place for the youth, and how we as youths can make the world better. So here we have the score of Team 2 at 62 points for the third place. Congratulations, Team 2.
Thank you.
Very good. We have the score of Team 4 at 63 for the second place. Congratulations, Team 4. You've done really amazing. And now for Team 8 at 66 points for the first place. Congratulations, Team 8. The judges and all of our team like your policy brief best. And we would be publishing your policy brief in collaboration with International Association of Political Science Students public platform. Congratulations once again. I would also like to invite the judges to congratulate the winners.
Congratulations, everyone. I think we are proud of each one of you. And as we said before, it was a very tough decision for us. So it's not that one team is done better than other. Actually, each one of you have done commendably wonderful. And I think we really like the presentation and all the best for future.
Yes, congratulations. I think everybody is a winner, and it was so difficult to decide on one winner as such. But yeah, good luck, and I'm sure all of you will do well, and keep doing this, keep participating in different events, and focus on policy writing, because I think it's a great skill to have on. And yeah, good luck, congratulations, and we are really thrilled and happy with the results that have come out, and are proud of everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And for all the other teams, please don't be discouraged. It might be a very new activity for some participants, as it was for me, but we hope everyone was able to learn and take something with them regarding policy and how to formulate policy, or even question the policies that come out in the public sphere. And thank you so much for our judges. It was an honor to have you on board with us. I would now request Shivantika to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the whole team.
Thank you, Taru. I would like to extend my thanks to the eminent panelists and judges who joined us for our policy writing workshop. So a huge thank you to Mr. Arpit Chaturvedi, Mr. Rana Faruqi, Dr. Uppal, and Ms. Cheena Malhotra for providing us with knowledgeable insights into an array of themes and in the field of policy formulation, for their expertise and for taking out such valuable time out of their schedule. I would also like to thank our partners, Global Policy Insights and International Association for Political Science Students, for being incredibly supportive and for being a wonderful guiding force. I wish to also extend my gratitude to all the participants for pooling in their efforts to create detailed and interesting memorandums and for being extremely patient throughout the process. It was truly wonderful to interact with you all. We hope that we were able to provide you with an enriching experience and hope to see you soon for our future projects. Finally, I would like to thank our entire AYO-India team for working tirelessly in making sure that this policy writing workshop was a success. So thank you so much. Over to you, Tarun.
Great, guys. Can we request everyone to please switch on their cameras, those of you who can, so that we can take a quick group picture.
All right, everyone, please turn on your cameras. I'll be taking a screenshot for everyone. All right. I'll count down so everybody is ready. All right. So 3, 2, 1. I'll take another one just in case. All right. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, participants. It was a great experience to have you all on board. It has been an honor to host all of you, especially in during the pandemic situations when so much is happening, and right now it's more relevant than ever for all of us to be involved in the policy department. So thank you so much for joining in, and we hope all of you have learned something and Again, I would like to thank our judges, all the participants, and the entire AYO-India team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank everyone. Bye.